I don't know what it was about Farmington specifically, not a metropolitan area by any means.
It wasn't as far as St. Louis. St. Louis was still really intimidating.
Geography. I mean, it could be something bigger than that. It could be something that means more.
Part of it, I think, were the promoters who really worked hard to get good bands to come around. And I think that we just had a lot of talented people.
Of course, to get gigs anywhere else, like St. Louis, a whole nother ball game. But you didn't have to do that down in F-Town.
Right place, right time.
Because Farmington's kind of like the middle ground, so I think you just had a lot of people to pull from.
Everyone would kind of center here, and luckily we had the resources.
You had Bob-A-Rinos. Bob himself, you know, he would go out of his way to tell you that he was very happy to have a place where the kids could come and do something fun.
This place got put on the map just by local hard work.
I think what makes Farmington special in that sense is that there's always been that void that nature wants to fill, that niche.
Kids that didn't have much else to do.
Not a whole lot to do.
There's nothing to do.
There was nothing else.
You get kind of bored, restless, you want to get out, participate in a scene, but you don't want to drive all the way to St. Louis, Kansas City, Chicago, where the actual music scenes are. So what do? You create your own. You get together with your friends, you get a couple bands going, support each other. It's not exactly a tour, but it's something. It's the start of what you've been dreaming about doing since you were a kid, listening to, you know, recordings that you grew up on.
First local show experience was at the old bowling alley, 99 or 2000. It's a long time ago, 20 years. And they had 2 stages set up. They had one stage, you walked in the door, they had a stage off to the right, and then they had a stage up on the far end of the building. That's where the bigger acts were playing. I, unfortunately, was part of the smaller acts.
June 2nd, 2001, Accountable, Pennies for Allah, Shun, and Not Waving But Drowning. I was so out of my element. The mosh pit had broken out, and this girl shoved me right in the middle of it. And I got out unscathed, but that girl became my best friend, Ashley.
Probably at the Rock House in Farmington. Probably the first local show for a lot of people. Local artists, Not Waving But Drowning, and Shun, and I think a bass string hit me in the face.
Probably to go see Thrust, because that was the first local band I remember. All of the band members lived right next door to me. Just rock stars to me. I was like their little super fan.
It was a basement show. Thrust, D-Align, and Crypt 33. You couldn't understand anything. It was just noise. I just knew that it was loud and it was different.
A local high school band. 5 Seconds of Goodwill. Oh, it was magical. I knew that there were a couple bands at Farmington High School that played, and that was it. I had no clue that there was like this sort of underground music scene.
I was not old enough to drive. I did not have parents that were going to drive me anywhere. I was probably like a 3.5 mile walk. Just one flyer to go to a show, went, fell in love.
It was in the back of an old stinky bar. My band at the time was just all originals. And up until this point, we just played parties. It was like the first time that the music was the focus.
I was in a band called Grinch, and so we just decided to throw our own show at my dad's house in the garage. By about 8, 9 o'clock, we probably had 100 people out at my dad's. And then from there, it's just like, man, we were in.
Riding down there on my skateboard, being so excited. It was country days. Forget all these rides and all this. I'm gonna go see music tonight. I got in the mosh pit, got knocked down by this chick, and it was a great day. It was like the start of a love affair with music.
Oh God, we're really gonna go back there. I mean, at age like 15, I was playing local covers.
I started playing music when I was like 12.
Started out when I was 16 years old, went all the way through, and it really developed me as a musician personally.
My family always played music, so I would go over and fiddle with their gear, but the drums always stood out.
I was teaching myself how to play bass.
Started playing music in my bedroom, annoying everyone around.
I played guitar in the high school jazz band. And
As soon as I started playing, started finding people like
Similar interests that I do.
Oh shit, you're in a band? Really? What are you guys like? Well, I'm in a band.
You go to school and people weren't like you there. And you go to shows and people were like you there.
That was our sense of community. If you show up for a show, you're sticking around from the top to the end. You're sticking around for every single band, whether you're playing or whether you're just coming to see it. That was kind of the mentality, I think, that everybody seemed to have. It meant that people wanted to be there for everybody else.
Once you get somebody that's never experienced to show up to a show, and if you get a good lineup of bands, you know, they're gonna walk out of there being like, holy shit.
I met a lot of new people.
All these concerts that are happening every weekend and then after parties, and it was just pretty unbelievable experience, and I got sucked right into it.
Now it was a gathering of a county's worth of schools, of kids that all had the same likes, the same dreams, everyone just wanted to be rock stars.
We're gonna go on tour as soon as we graduate, and it's gonna be great. And none of those worked out, but just kept at it.
We approached this guy, had a pizzeria in Farmington, this guy named Bob, a pizzeria called Bob-A-Rino, and we tell him, hey, all these people are gonna show up and they're gonna buy all your pizza and you're gonna have a great day of sales. And people are gonna know about your pizzeria. In the meantime, we get to play in your parking lot.
Fall Out Boy, when they came through, they were actually on a tour where they literally said, you can pay us in pizza. We just want to play. So going and playing Bob-A-Rino's, which is a pizza place, that kind of fit their MO at the time.
We were on tour and we had a couple days off. I called my friends back home and I was like, hey man, what do you think about putting a show together? It ended up being at Bob's. After that, everyone in St. Louis and everybody was like, damn man, can we get a date in Farmington? Bands that I knew from the road, from Pennsylvania, are coming to play the Rock House.
You had a couple of mainstay venues that actually had consistent shows, but a lot of stuff was like, it'd be a one-off show here, one-off show there.
I know there was at least one show that was in a tattoo parlor in downtown Farmington. There's the skate park. I know they had an outdoor show there once.
The music scene kept people from straying off to doing drugs, alcohol, bad partying habits.
For instance, Bob's. When we're doing shows there, dude's giving us his place. Kids are coming, having a good time, being safe. They're not out busting windows out of cars. They're buying pizza. It's like a handshake to the community. Everything's well. The cops show up. Bob's like, I got this.
Hearing all the time about how he would fight the city of Farmington over curfew, and I always thought that was a really great thing. Without someone like Bob, who knows?
There were a few individuals who were willing to put in a lot of work and a lot of time on their own dime and spend their own money, even though they didn't have any, to make it happen.
The benefit shows are the things that stand out to me the most, the people that come out and give their money and give their time to support a good cause.
This area has always had like a very eclectic style of music coming through it. It's like you're not gonna find two bands that are exactly the same.
Where this freaking death metal band from Potosi's playing, pop punk band is playing, hardcore band is playing, some acoustic dude is playing.
The bands could also have like that personal connection with the crowd, where they're right up on you.
The fact that people were doing this and like getting together and spending a Friday or Saturday night paying $5 to go see these bands play was cool as hell. I never ever in high school playing in my basement, I never would have thought that we'd have that in this town, ever.
Really early days, we were doing flyers.
Lots of flyers. We would print the hell out of flyers.
Have street teams go out and flyer like other schools. It was like a whole art form for a long time. Like the paper flyers used to be great around here.
We were contacting people by dial tone phone.
A lot of us had portable CD players we'd take to school with us, and we'd just show people like, you gotta listen to this and check this out.
It was just easy to say, hey, this Friday at 7 o'clock, we're gonna have 10 bands out here in the middle of a cornfield, and people would show up.
Word of mouth in a small town is absolutely what makes the local scene, because
it was more personal, because if you did it now, it'd be on Facebook. That you wouldn't be face to face with anybody. Back then it was literally you had to go up and talk to people about it.
I think social media did help in the overall grand scheme because it did get the word out faster. We're talking in the days of MySpace. I was listening to a live show of my band before, and at the very end of the show we said thank you, and they said, oh, by the way, check us out on myspace.com/whatever. And it made me laugh because nobody's on MySpace anymore, and MySpace turned into this music thing before. I think it still is a music thing.
MySpace, STL Punk.
STL Punk was a social media site before we knew what social media sites were.
That built music for me. Like that became much better. Like not only could I, listen to a band's music, but I could see a video they threw up online.
It's another format to see your favorite bands in, but I don't see it helping the local community.
The fact that everybody got so ingrained into social media, that hurt.
you kind of tune out to everything. Nothing stands out anymore unless it's, a marriage or a death.
We weren't so bogged down with social media like kids are now. We needed something to feel connected. And I feel like now kids feel connected all the time, so they might not need that escape, that camaraderie, that togetherness that we got in that moment. Things are shifting and things are different now. Kids are completely different than we were. I mean, we had disposable cameras and digital cameras, and things are just so accessible.
It's so easy to just lay in bed and watch your live feeds and everything like that.
Why get up and go anywhere when you can have anything you want right there in your hand? Entertainment is so easy to get your hands on, whereas back then you had to find it.
I think it kind of takes that sense of discovery out.
Social media, it has its pros and cons.
It's definitely a change that we have to accept, that we have to roll with it. I like to think that it's an opportunity.
Social media can be an effective way to engage with your fans, with your audience. It can be an effective way to promote yourself, to get out there, make an event and share it on Facebook. But you still need that visceral, in the same room contact with people. You still need to play shows where everybody's shoulder to shoulder and sweaty and screaming, your words back at you. Like, you don't get that experience sitting at home.
What worries me about social media and stuff like that is that it's coming down to the all-American dollar bill, and if you don't boost your post, if you don't pay to promote, then no one sees it. When you're just scrolling through your phone and you just see something, I'm bad about just looking at it and just like, okay, just continue on. Just doesn't jump out at the page to me. Someone coming and shaking your hand and saying, here's a CD, here's a sticker, here's this flyer, come check this out. That's personal. That's something that's going to actually stick out to me and stick out in my mind personally.
Some of the promoters and some of the bands moved to St. Louis, and I feel like things got really quiet after that. I don't know if anybody really filled in those slots that were left behind. That magical perfect storm I talked about, I just think that kind of passed over.
I just feel like it went back underground.
The scene was dying, and then it kept dwindling and got smaller.
Some people may have gotten tired of the same bands over and over again.
After you've seen this one band for over a 10th time, you kind of think, I'm going to go ahead and skip it this weekend. Just kind of lost interest.
And they move on to something else.
Just moved on. You just had to find something else to do, because eventually between a career and a family and just sometimes for your own sanity,
people start moving off, getting married, venues start shutting down.
I mean, musicians will always be here. Even though there aren't as many bands coming out of high school and as many bands coming up, there will always be bands in this town. But we need a place to play, and we need someone to, corral all of us and get all of our efforts moving in one direction.
If putting a show together these days for a new band that nobody's ever heard of, I don't know if that's going to work, just because
I don't know that the younger crowd is as into the music that a lot of the bands are playing.
From what I've seen, they're not ones to actually go out and see an original band in a small setting. It would be a resurgence of all of us older guys that used to come to those shows. I think that's who would show up.
Even if there was, I think you'd see more heads down looking at their phone than you would looking at the bands, unfortunately.
The point now where I feel like music's more of a background, where at that time I remember getting an album and just laying in my bed and listening to an album in whole, and it meant the world to me to hear every single word.
I don't know. I don't feel that sense of urgency anymore.
I don't know if it will be like it was.
I miss it. It was a great time. Made a lot of friendships that I still have to this day. I learned a lot about music from those days, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
The internet's a lonely place no matter how many friends you have. I think we still need a gathering place, a third space. You've got your home, your work, or your school, and you need a third space. For a lot of us, that was Bob-A-Rino's, that was the Rock House, that was Nature's Cup. Where we go, where all of our friends would be. I think it's still really important to have that.
But I'm all about getting local bands back together and playing. Even the kids that are younger and starting to do it now, that'd be awesome if they had a venue to go play at. There was a lot of friends that enjoyed watching us play that music, so I think we slowly snowballed into this big family. It seemed like we were playing with and for everyone in that town. It was a super humbling, great feeling.
That was probably the best part, is showing up, loading out all of your gear, and you see the same people that you have always seen night after night or week after week. It was the greatest.
I can't imagine where my life would be without it. How many people are married now because they met at local music shows? The amount of people that are alive that, what else would they have done with their time in their teenage years? Whenever you don't know how to control your emotions and your body, what would have happened without it?
we were kids back then. And I always loved that because, you know, you got TV shows like American Idol and all that stuff where you got to be good right now. Like, you have to be perfect. I think there should always be a place where you can go watch some crappy local band, you know, who's working it out and trying to get good.
If you got a youngster that says he's interested in taking some pictures, go buy him a cheap camera and let him look through the lens. Get him a pair of drumsticks and then go play the drums a little bit.
There's a lot of people that are gonna tell stories 5, 10, 15 years from now to people their same age or maybe to their kids, or hell, some of them are gonna have grandkids by then, about this time they were at a show and this thing happened and how special it was to them.
I think there will always be a longing for camaraderie and feeling a part of something. And we didn't have the cell phones that we have now. We didn't have the constant stream. We had to do it for ourselves. And I hope that kids can have something like that, because it was really, I couldn't imagine myself now without it. Put the phone down. Go to parties. Go listen to a band. Do something fun.
Support local art. Get out and like be a part of it, because otherwise it dies and no one benefits from that.